Today I have the Army Universal Gewwhr, also known as the Universal Army Rifle, also known as the AUG, also known as the AUG, depending on what you like to call it. This rifle was actually not mine. It was lended to me by a good friend of mine, Bill. He picked this rifle up for a pretty good price and decided to let me borrow it and shoot some rounds through it and make a video on it. This is one of those Cold War rifles that I've always wanted to have. It's definitely a super cool rifle. Let me go through just a little bit of history, and then we'll talk about this particular rifle that I have. So this rifle, as you may or may not know, is manufactured by Steyr, and it was adopted by the Austrian Army in 1978 as a replacement for the FAL, which is a good choice. Also, Steyr started in 1864. They actually started it in a sawmill. So, and that's pretty interesting. Steyr, if you don't know, was also forced to make vehicles and aviation engines and ball bearings, as well as weapons for Nazi Germany after they were occupied during World War II. I mean, there's a ton of more information you can look up about Steyr if you're interested. They have quite the history. So this AUG here is the standard version. It's not the NATO version, so it takes the standard AUG mags. This is also my recommended version. If you're going to get an AUG, I suggest you get the non-NATO version for one reason, really one reason only. So on the non-NATO version, you have a bolt catch here. I actually didn't know what this was. I shot like 100 rounds, and you'll see in the shooting footage, or you may have already seen, that whenever the bolt locked to the rear, I would reach up and put a new mag in. I would reach up and charge it like this, which you can do, and actually I thought that was pretty cool. The issue that I had, one of the issues was this optic here. I had, if you see in the shooting footage, or I think in some of the shooting footage, I had the optic moved up here, and it was literally slicing my thumb every time I would come up and hit the charging handle. I really wish I would have known that this was a bolt catch. I watched a couple YouTube videos when I first got it, and nobody mentioned that, at least that I saw. Apparently that's just something you're supposed to know. But when I first got this rifle, I took it out the very first day I got it, and I put like 20 rounds through it, and to be honest with you, I hated this thing. I didn't like it at all, and I never held a bullpup before, and I thought the magazine reloads were awkward. The trigger is honestly junk, and I hated it. And to be honest with you, I didn't like it so much that I was like, I'm not even going to bother shooting it again. But despite of that, I watched some more YouTube videos, because like I said, this was a gun that I always thought was cool and I always wanted to try and check out. So I watched some more YouTube videos, and I actually practiced at home with the reloads, and I got pretty good with it. And I learned some different things. Like I said, I learned about the bolt catch, and then I learned how to reload. I actually watched, there's a couple guys that can reload these things pretty quick on YouTube. I mean, I guess imagine that, because this is a military rifle that is still in service to this day. So, I mean, it's, you know, of course it's going to be 100% reliable. I did have some issues with it shooting steel cased, but again, this is a military rifle, and it was designed to shoot, you know, NATO spec ammunition. So with NATO spec ammunition, I had no problems with anything. The bolt locked open every time. Like I said, the only issues I had again was with the trigger, and that's just because it's an 11-pound trigger. Actually, a couple times when I was trying to group it and make precise shots, I actually thought the safety was still on. That's how heavy the trigger was. And if you don't know, there's a reason for that. The reason is because the trigger pack is actually back here, and then the trigger itself is here. So there's a linkage that runs from here the whole way to the back here. And that's just the case with all bullpups. This is my first bullpup I've ever got to mess with. And I've always heard that about them, but now I know. And interestingly enough, in the military version, the trigger, you can squeeze one round and you can get semi-automatic, or you can just push the trigger the whole way to the back and it goes into full auto. So I don't think there's a selector. I think that's just how they do it. So you can go from full auto to semi-automatic really fast. And it's actually a pretty cool design. I actually really like that. But again, that's only for the full automatic versions. This, again, is a semi-automatic version. You can see some of the markings there from Steyr. These guns are quite expensive. He got a good deal on this one, and he paid $1,500 out the door. That was dealer pricing from a friend of his that is an FFL. I actually was really thinking about buying one of these before I bought my one Colt, and the price that I was going to end up paying would have been about $2,000 by the time you paid shipping and tax, because they were like $1,800 on Atlantic Firearms. And I decided not to go with it, and literally like 2 weeks later, he ended up getting this. He called me up and ended up getting this. So that worked out, because I was able to actually get this as well. Not get it, but I was actually able to get it and shoot it. So I thought that timing was just perfect on that. So, but the gun itself is an awesome gun. Is it worth $2,000? If you're looking for something to defend yourself with, no, absolutely not. I have a hard time recommending this. I grew up on the AR. I've shot the AR for the last 10, 15 years. And that's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I know how to work. So I would suggest an AR-15 of any flavor, or even an AK. But there are guys that do like to run these, and I can't say that I blame them. I just think it's a lot of money. And then if you get the NATO version, it'll shoot AR-15 mags. The problem with the NATO version is everyone that I've seen that was having problems with these, it was with the NATO version, and it was certain mags that the gun didn't like. If you get the non-NATO version and just run the AUG mags, you're not going to have any issues. And you can't, they're like $40 a mag, but if you're spending $2,000 on a gun, what's another $300? Realistically, what's another $300 in 8 mags or whatever? It's really not that much money if you have the kind of money to spend on these things. So that's why I suggest going with the standard AUG, and I just think it's cool. If I was gonna buy one of these AUGs now, knowing what I know now, see, I originally thought that all these had 20-inch barrels. They don't. This one here has a 16-inch barrel, and I think most of them have a 16-inch barrel. I would want the 20-inch barrel. If you line this up with a 14.5-inch M4 carbine, you'll see that this gun, even though this has a 16-inch barrel, is actually still smaller, a good bit smaller than a 14.5-inch pinned and welded M4. So if you would get a 20-inch barrel, you would probably be the same size as a 16-inch M4. Maybe a tad longer, but it wouldn't make a difference. It would be literally like the same size. And one thing that I did notice was I got a lot of concussion and stuff out of this, I guess the flash hider or muzzle brake, whatever it is. And I think that could be mitigated also by getting the 20-inch barrel. And also, if I was going to buy one of these, I would really like to find an original one with the original optic on it. I'm not sure if those are imported or even made. They might be collector's items. They might be like $3,000. I'm not sure. I will put a picture in of the original AUG with the optic. You can see that right now, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. But I mean, these guns are solid. If you're looking at buying one, you really can't go wrong with it as long as you have the money. Just be aware that I probably wouldn't mount any kind of optic up here. I would put it back here. I think this is a shoo-in for an ACOG, if you ask me, because when you're up on the gun, your face is like right here, so the eye relief isn't really a problem. And I think this with a 20-inch barrel, and if you would get the M16 or the ACOG with the 20-inch barrel, the A4 ballistic drop compensator in it, I think this would be a hell of a gun. Again, assuming you didn't want a rifle or an M4 or an AR, it would sure as heck be a lot smaller, and you would get a lot more ballistics out of this than you would. It's a lot smaller than an M16A4, and you get better ballistics than you would out of an M4. So the other thing is, if you're a left-handed shooter, forget about this gun. You're not going to shoot this gun. This gun flings the rounds right back in your face, and you will actually eat the brass. And I'm not kidding when I say that. I mean, you could almost catch the brass in your mouth if you're a left-handed shooter. Now, if you're a left-handed shooter and you want to have this gun eject out of the left here, you can. That's another thing with buying the NATO version. You still can do it, but you have to mill this out. The regular AUG version comes with this already milled out. You just pull this off, and you have to. If you're not left-handed, that's great. I'm not left-handed, but I have left-handed friends. I have quite a few, actually. My cousin's left-handed. My buddy Tyler he shoots right-handed and left-handed. It just depends, I guess, how he's feeling. I don't know, but he's very ambidextrous. So he could shoot this, but I would definitely want to let him know that he can't shoot it left-handed. Actually, when we were at the range, I offered to let a guy shoot this at the range, and he's like, hell no, I'm left-handed. So he knew enough about these to know that he can't shoot these left-handed. Well, you can, but you're gonna, like I said, eat the brass. The other thing that this beats out on an M4 is this is a piston design. So if you don't like the AR-15's direct gas impingement, you can have a piston design with this. And actually, one of the reasons I fell in love with this is taking it apart. It's really cool, and I'll put a picture in of what it looks like when it's completely disassembled. This has a quick barrel change feature, which you will never use. It's really for the LMG version for the military, but it's really quick. Just pull the bolt back, lock it to the rear, push this little button down here, and it literally just comes completely out like so. And you can swap barrels, whatever. You can get a longer barrel, and then it literally just goes in just like that. Headspace is fine. It's not a problem. It's locked in. The gun is pretty accurate. I mean, for a combat rifle, about 1.5 inches at 100 yards. Not a problem there. Even though this barrel is not really held on by a ton, it doesn't really affect the accuracy. Is this sub-MOA gun? Absolutely not. But with that being said, neither is a mil-spec M4. So it's not really a big deal. I think when these first were introduced into the U.S. market, guys were thinking they were going to have spare barrels and stuff. The barrels are like $400, $300 from what I've seen. So, I mean, like I said, just keep racking that money up. So, but other than that, it's a very cool gun. Like I said, if I was going to buy one, I'd either like one with the optic on it, the original optic, or at least one in green or black. I'm not a huge fan of the FDE color, but this was the only color he could get, because I think I tried to tell him to get black. But for the price, this is what he could get, and that's fine. This is a very, very cool gun. So, anyways, hope you guys learned something. Hope you enjoyed the video.